you. Thank you very much for that warm introduction. It's a great privilege to speak with you tonight. I'm a member of your tribe, as you just explained. I want to read a chapter of a book I've written recently, Retired, Widowed, Purposeless, but Purposeful, The Making of Seniors Junction. And I'm going to read the third chapter because the first two chapters are a little bit heavy. So I just wanted to start with the third chapter when I was trying to reconnect with people. I call this chapter Finding Connections and Finding Activities. Not all of my attempts to get out of the house and connect with people worked smoothly. There was a charity lunch and wine tasting to benefit the local hospital. Sorry, I got fancy here and used two monitors, and isn't that just, there we go. But to benefit the local hospital, I bought a ticket. It was a bit more expensive than most events I had paid for. If there had been two of us, I might have felt it too expensive. When I got to the event, I was alone in a crowd. I knew no one there and could not find a place I felt comfortable sitting. Somehow, seeing all the happy couples and families made me feel even lonelier. Then other thoughts came along as well. I started wondering if I had done enough materially for my wife. If I had not chosen an academic career, probably I could have made much more money in law or business, I thought. Would my wife's shortened life have been easier and happier if I had done so? Did I cheat her of happiness because of my insistence on my chosen career path? These thoughts don't make much sense as I speak them to you today. After all, on their deathbeds, very few people say they wish they'd had more money or spent more time at the office. But those unwelcome thoughts upset me on that day, and they did not leave me alone. I left that event and did the half-hour walk home, crying most of the way. It can be difficult for a widow or widower to be with couples and families. With widows and widowers, it sometimes seems easier at first. I traveled back to Ottawa for a retirement workshop. I had planned for retirement, but not like this. The first speaker said that there are 7 positive things that going to work does for a person. She listed them. I don't remember them, but I caught her drift, and I tried to apply it to my own situation. I thought about all the things that my wife did for me. It was many more than 7. I realized that I would have to distribute those needs to a number of people. Actually, it has taken a small village to do the things that my marriage did for me. And here I say thank you to those villagers. They know who they are. Here's a list of the biggest things I lost from those 2 major events, retirement and the untimely, and how could it be otherwise, death of my wife. Companionship. I put this first on the list because we did so many things together. Not all of those things were earth-shaking activities. When I dream about her, which 5 years after her death I do quite frequently, mostly we are doing everyday things, shopping, cooking, maybe traveling. I think of all of the conversations we had about every little thing. Mealtime. Cooking for one and eating alone can be dull. Affection. Enough said, right? Respect and encouragement. We were each other's biggest supporters. Advice and support in every little or big thing. Interesting ideas. I include her musicality in this. Someone to talk things over with. Retirement is a loss. I miss the students. I miss colleagues from work, even the ones I argued with. I miss having an office at my workplace. I miss the energy of the campus. I miss people noticing my work. I miss committees. I know that will seem strange to some of you. I miss talking about every little thing with whomever would talk. That's a shortened list, but I think you get the idea. There is a lot that I miss. At the retirement workshop, there were round tables. I didn't say much at most of them, but one proactive workshop leader must have noticed an expression on my face and drew me out. The discussion was about the difficulties of a couple agreeing what to do in retirement, in particular, how much to travel. 5 or 6 people in a row said that this was a great source of frustration, and they disliked the discussions and arguments. The workshop leader asked me to comment. I declined, but he asked again, and he had been a fine colleague. I said that one of a couple can disappear at any time. I said I would do anything to have one of those arguments, and I had to leave the room. I had agreed to read a scholarly paper in Germany that first summer, so I asked my younger cousin to stay with the cats while I was gone. After a major loss, the brain protects us from the full impact of the trauma. That is not the most scientific explanation, but I think it makes the point. My cousin had to help me pack my suitcase. "Don't you need socks?" she asked. I have packed my suitcase many, many times, but I could not seem to see my way through that task. When it was my turn to read a paper, the conference organizers had dedicated the session to the memory of my wife, for which I was very grateful. I started to read my paper, got a quarter of the way through, departed from my text once, usually that is just for half a minute, and used up all of my time. No one minded, I think. No one drew attention to it, though I noticed. My older cousin suggested I come back via Iceland because she had been there and liked it, and so I did. I went on a tour that took me inside a dormant volcano. The ride down on a window washer stand made me weak at the knees, and that showed on a photo that I asked the guide to take at the bottom of the crater. I posted the photo on Facebook with the caption, "Do I look afraid?" One of my friends wrote that he did not know if I looked afraid, but I looked alive. For years, I have been a type 2 diabetic, non-insulin dependent person. My blood sugar was well controlled with diet. I did not check it. When I finally did, 3 months after my wife died, it had risen from the 5 to 8 range, which, as you know, is well controlled, to 20. Yes, 20. My doctor was alarmed. "You must be feeling symptoms," he said. Not really, no. There was for me a kind of numbness that went with being a widower. I have seen a slack expression on many widowed faces. Feeling things acutely does not seem to be a priority for us. Of course, my doctor prescribed and prescribed. He threw the pharmacy at my high blood sugar. No combination moved the needle at all. Finally, he tried one last combination. After that, it would be insulin, he intimated. But at that time, a wonderful thing happened. I gained 3 solid, deep, intergenerational friendships. My blood sugar plummeted like a stone, right down to the old levels. My doctor concluded that he had found the right combination of medications. I felt otherwise, but didn't need to debate the point with him. I phoned my older cousin in Ottawa. She had lost her husband a year before. I asked her to help me with a social network. I said I'd been told I needed one. She asked me how I thought she could accomplish that when she lived 4 hours away by car. I told her I was confident she could. In fact, she came up with a great connection. She knew someone who knew people who held house concerts in the town next to me. She asked if I could be invited to attend, and the answer was yes. I went to the concerts, met my host, and mingled. I enjoyed the concert. One of the other guests wanted to publish a book on Amazon and asked if anyone had. I said I had and told her what I knew of the process. I gave her my name and the link to my book there. She must have looked it up because she told the house concert hosts that I hold a PhD in music. They asked me to dinner. They ran a concert review website and asked if I wanted to write reviews in exchange for free concert tickets. Absolutely, I did. I learned that Dennis, that's not his name, of course, wanted to play four-hand piano. We became four-hand partners that evening. I'm explaining these details because they were very important activities in my transition. One can find purpose, and that for me is the key, either through new activities or by resuming former abandoned activities. Purpose leads to interaction with others, which leads to shared purpose, and then we can not just survive, we can thrive. I decided to go to the annual networking night of the university where I did my graduate work. Networking could lead to a network, right? Well, it was even better. I met Namrata, and today we are the co-founders of Seniors Junction. What an important friendship and business partnership it is. I would find it hard to imagine my present life without Namrata and Seniors Junction. My department chair had seen her brother widowed, and concerned about my isolation, she asked me if I would like to travel to Ottawa one day a week to teach a course. I took the opportunity gladly, then learned that Namrata had started her PhD program there. We met for breakfast once a week and I taught my class. Again, purpose, purpose leading to connectedness, leading to further purpose. I think it has been a mistake for our society to turn as far away from spirituality as overall it has. It seems to me that principally there are two benefits to a good spiritual path or inclination. One is that groups of people, communities, go along with it. In the course of celebrating the religion or path, other people come our way and friendships can form. The other benefit is the direct one. As human beings, we all have a connection with spirit or the life force, or whatever we may call it. We may have neglected that connection, and therefore we may not be working with it, but the connection is still there for us. I think it is in our best interest to be alive to the possibility. I am a cleric in my spiritual path, but during my late working years, I had not done any clerical functions. I said to myself that when retired, I would take this up again. After my wife died, I started going to meetings. Quickly, I was asked to officiate at services and lead a book discussion. My clerical activities have grown from there. These are a great source of satisfaction and vitality for me. I would say now that I'm farther along than ever in my spiritual studies, and these give me greater joy than they ever have. They have also brought me important friendships. I reconnected with my undergraduate piano professor, with whom I had not spoken for years. What a fool I had been to let years pass without meeting her. We had a wonderful time. I drove her the 90 miles from her house to mine, cooked a 5-course traditional Italian meal for her, and listened as she sharply and astutely spoke to the other guests in 4 different languages, switching between them without skipping a beat. If one lives to be 90 or older, it is very important to stay sharp and stay active. It is another intergenerational friendship, one I treasure. Friendships matter. They matter a great deal. You may have read about the so-called blue zones. These are places where people live longer and age better. They have been studied. Certainly the diet and physical activities in the blue zones are important factors for longevity, but these areas also have other characteristics. In particular, they have groups of lifelong friends with shared purpose. Imagine meeting the same set of friends almost every day, all your life. Of course, we cannot do that because in our society, we move. We change cities to study, to work, or indeed to retire. Still, we can come close to making our own blue zones. It turned out that Angela, that's not her name either, one of my friends from high school, the witness at my wedding, had moved to my new city. We reconnected, and through her, I became acquainted with an outstanding opera company in Toronto. Opera is one of my great passions. We went to concerts, and she arranged for me to attend a rehearsal. What a joy. 4 of us traveled to Chicago to hear the company perform. What a great trip. I splurged on a hat, and we had a gourmet meal to remember. Dessert was an edible helium-filled balloon, and I sang a song from The Wizard of Oz in a voice like the Chipmunks. A memorable trip. When her brother-in-law went through old photo albums, he found that our connection went back even farther than we knew. There we were at the same church picnic. I cannot have been more than 2 years old. I realized that the cast of my personal Act 5 has some great characters from Act 1. A high school friend, someone who came to my very first birthday party, yes, at age 1, and the boy that was with me from grades 3 to 9 and rode with me on the bus every day. Not bad at all. Beginning to look blue, don't you think? If you are medically proficient or medically minded or both, you may have filed away what I said about blood sugar, thinking there could well be consequences. You would be right. High sugar can weigh blood cells down, causing them to make pits in arteries. Cholesterol can fill the holes. Certainly, I had that sky-high blood sugar for at least 5 months. If I had the high sugar for the months I did not check it, the time could have been as long as 10 months. I had a heart attack, and I learned there had been 2 silent ones before that. The surgery was not straightforward. I realized my predicament and talked quietly to Spirit. I said that although before, just after my wife died, I had hoped that my remaining time would not be too long, I now had reasons to live longer. There were people whom I helped, people who needed me for some things. I asked to be spared, to live longer. As soon as I finished my petition, in my mind, I heard the words of the little Robert Frost poem we learned and sang in school, stopping by woods on a snowy evening. When the poem reached the final lines, I knew my petition had been answered. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep. Miles to go, purpose, people, reasons to go on living. Over the course of 2 years, I had changed my tune from make my time short, please, to no, I have things to do. But purpose and help come to us in this world through people. I waited on a gurney at the hospital while the surgical resident looked at my charts, scans, and test results. He was very nervous, and the more he saw, the more nervous he became. He generously shared his nervousness with me while I waited for surgery. There's a lot of damage here. You're going to need more than this surgery, he said. I thought, well, I don't want someone operating on me with a pessimistic attitude about the outcome. I wondered whether the grade 6 Ontario curriculum had changed much, and I ventured, I need to live. I have promises to keep. His whole demeanor changed. He smiled and said, we will help you keep those promises. One way of measuring heart function is the ejection fraction, the percentage of the heart's total blood volume that is pumped out at each heartbeat. The normal range is 50 to 70%. In the hospital before surgery, my result was 24%. 1 month after the surgery, the cardiologist measured it at 68% and made me wait in the office while she checked her calculations because that result was highly improbable. She called mine a remarkable recovery, but added that she still wanted me to follow her instructions. I said after this, I would follow everything she said in every detail. Why am I telling you this? Because of the importance of having purpose. Also to explain what I see as the way purpose comes to us through interactions with people, not always along straight lines. And thank you very much for listening.